Today, my guest is Wade Brill. Wade and I met in a podcasting group called One Stone Creative with Megan Doherty. Shout out, Megan.
Woo woo.
Megan's also a guest on my podcast the last year. We love Megan, and Wade and I met in her group and just kind of vibed. And we have very similar podcast titles ish, or kind of yeah, ish. And so we're playing today. We're doing a twofer. So Wade, thanks so much for hanging out and for this great idea. It's super fun.
I'm so excited. It's back-to-back podcasting. I love it.
We're doing the what do they call it? The batching almost.
S- Batching. Yeah. We are being time efficient.
We are. We are. That is us. Uh and so Wade lives in, you said, in Oregon?
Seattle.
Yep.
Close. Pacific Northwest.
West. Okay. Yes. And Wade's podcast is called Centered in the City, and it is about, tell us about Centered in the City, please.
Yeah. So Centered in the City is a podcast I created in 2017 that originally was a place for meditations where I could share my meditations and make them accessible for people. And during the pandemic, it expanded to having these conversations with friends, individuals, thought leaders, authors, creatives around what does it mean to be centered as we live our lives in these cities, and city meaning literal city, but also a figurative city of these busy modern lives where we're just running at hyper speeds and we're hyper connected. And how do we find our center when things are really loud? So it's all about how do we connect back to self? How do we find our center in our personal and professional life?
2017. Holy crap, man.
Yeah, long time. I'm like, what year
Seven?
is it?
You're going 7?
I guess so.
Wow. That's amazing. And so, wow. But so Wade, you had some sustainability things that you wanted to chat about. So one is managing your energy, which boy, do we need that, because we're always just like go, go, go and burning the candle at both ends, right? So what do you suggest for that?
Yeah, I mean, big question, big topic. When we think about energy management, I think it comes from many different levels and perspectives. But when we're energy conscious, when we're thinking about life, everything has an energetic vibration. And you can think that's woo woo, but it's really not. It's kind of physics. Like everything has that sense of um, energy and impact and vibration. And so that even is connected to our thoughts and our emotions. And so when we're conscious of the energy that we create internally, our thoughts and our emotions and our sensations, and then also what's the energy that we create externally? What do we do with our actions, with our bodies? How do we be in the world and interact in the world? And all of it has, an energetic impact, and we can be conscious to what energy are we cultivating internally and externally, or we can live these unconscious autopilot earmuff blinder life where we're just kind of moving or plowing through. And when we can be conscious of what energy we're creating for ourselves, it can then really affect how we show up in life. It can affect our health, it can affect our well-being, it can affect our relationships. So yeah, I love talking about energy because it is part of being sustainable in this world that is constantly saying, go, 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 faster, faster, now, now, now. I want it like this. I want it like that.
Be more productive, get more done.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sure. Wow. And I mean, I would think that, I mean, what we were just saying on your podcast, uh, talking about taking a moment to find the awe. And, it's got to be a good, uh, a good thing to do for this energy managing. That was awkward.
Yeah, like finding the awe is a really helpful way for us to gather energy, connect to energy, and also give energy out. And so, for instance, I have this practice right now. It's actually dwindling as the season's starting to shift into spring, but this is like a winter practice that I've done for the last 4 years, started in the pandemic, and it's literally life saving for my mental health around the winter blues and navigating energy. I'm somebody who needs a lot of light. I need, like, sun is like what I pray to, like I love the sun. And in the winter, especially here in Seattle and Pacific Northwest, it's really dark. It gets really gray. And I have this practice called sunrise chasing that I get up and out the door to catch the beginning glimmers of the sunlight. And some days when it's like super gray, that might be the tiniest shift of light from that like dark sky, gray blue, to then a lighter blue, to then just like kind of that yucky gray. And even just seeing that light shift to me is like, like it feels like candy for my eyes, and I feel that energy like go into my body, and I just feel way more connected to the world. I feel the fresh air on my skin, I feel the elements on my skin, I feel alive and connected to time, and then that fills my body up with energy, and then I'm bringing that energy into my interaction as I go back home with my husband or my clients when I'm having coaching calls, and I feel just way more connected. And then especially when it's like a drop dead gorgeous sunrise, it's like, holy shit, this world is a miracle. And I actually notice as I'm starting to not do it as much as the season's shifting, it's become kind of like dopamine. Like I'm like sad I'm not doing it. I'm like, oh, I'm missing out on the sunrise. Like, having now a little FOMO for it. But it gives me, and it also creates this like wonder, childhood wonder of like, oh, what's the sunrise going to be? Because every day it's different. And so there's that curiosity, and I just get excited to get out the door. So anyway, that's a practice that has created a lot of energy for me during the winter and connects me to awe, connects me to the beauty and simplicity of nature.
Wow, your description of that, Wade, it like I could feel it. I could feel it. Like it was like shimmering, like rain was like shimmering down. It was almost like glitter. That was
I
really
love that. I'm
I,
glad you could feel it. See, that's energy there, right? You could feel those sensations.
that was a really good description.
Thank you.
And that sounds like a really good practice. I mean, that's not that outrageous. And I
No,
mean,
especially in the winter months when, I mean, you live up pretty north too. Like the sun isn't rising at 6 a.m. where you have to get up at a ridiculous hour to get out the door. I am noticing as the sun is now rising at like 6:57, I'm like, that's a little too early. Even though I'm getting up still around 6:30, like I have some practices that I like to do before I get outside. So I'm just noticing like, okay, this is my winter ritual.
wow. Uh, yeah. I mean, we watched the sunrise from the breakfast table through the window.
That's
But
great though. Even taking that moment to like pause and connect to it.
yeah, I mean, we do it. We watch the birds in the morning because they're right outside the window, and yeah, we do a lot of the nature stuff here. Um, but so that's really great. I mean, it's like keeping yourself in check. Like, you can go, 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 but if you keep that in check and just stop yourself every so often and just like reassess or
Yeah, and to circling us back to this energy management piece, a lot of the times we do just have our foot on the gas pedal and we're going. And we don't think of ourselves, our mind, our body, our emotional body, our spiritual body as a car or vehicle that like needs its oil checked and it needs to its gas to be refilled and it needs, its brakes to be tightened and it needs to be cleaned and right like we forget of the maintenance that our systems require. And I think we've gotten so accustomed to seeing ourselves like technology, like the computers in front of us. Like they run all the time. They have 15 tabs open. I don't know about you, but my computer does. Like, oh, that's how my mind should be and my body should be. And we start to kind of train ourselves to be a little machine and we forget that it's taking us away from actually our nature. It's taking us away from our own natural rhythms. And obviously, thanks to capitalism, it's kind of pushing us into how can we be an efficiency puzzle piece in this whole system. And that has its own issues. And so, okay, where can we take personal responsibility? Yes, we can work to change the larger system. And we have the individual personal responsibility to be caring for self and each other.
Right. Oh my gosh. Yeah, that's a whole separate conversation.
Yes, that's a whole other thing.
Right. And so another thing that you have recently done, you said that you sold your car. Ooh, that's a big deal. And you're not in New York City, but you are in Seattle.
Correct. So I'm a born and raised New Yorker who didn't get her license until I was 19. And I've never really owned a car until my husband and I got, and he's owned cars. We had a car, but then anyway, we owned a car together. Like 3 years ago during the pandemic, we got one, and I really was then learning to drive and feel comfortable parking by myself and going on bridges and highways. And so like this is, as a 30-plus-year-old, I won't reveal my full age. This was like a new skill I was flexing, very stretchy for me. However, we decided to get rid of our car for various reasons, and thought we would maybe get another car. But we were traveling for 6 weeks. And so we were like, okay, let's get rid of our cars so we don't have to deal with it while we're gone. And while we were gone, we were in Europe where we spent a lot of time in Amsterdam where they were biking everywhere. And we're big bikers, walkers, public transportation people. And I remember my world just opened to like how possible it is. It's just about training your mindset. And I would see, like, we were biking around one day and it was pouring rain. And I was like, this is miserable. And about half an hour into it, I had this mindset switch of like, you know what? I'm wet. Who cares? Like, I'm wet. It's a little uncomfortable, but like, who cares? And I'd see everybody else around me, all these Dutch faces, like smiling, live in it,
So
just
wet.
do. Would you say?
So wet. They're
Say
all so wet.
Yeah, exactly. And they're just like they're living it. And they're these little kids, 2 years old, sitting on the front of these bikes, just like handling it, whereas I would think of a kid in the States, they would probably be like crying and, because they're just conditioned to being super comfortable all the time. And I, when we got back, I just was like, let's try to just use our bikes because we both work from home. We weren't really using our car that much. Yes, it's great for convenience. And I just said, you know what? Let's tap into our Europeanness. And we just use this as a mindset. And it's been really fun so far. Seattle, like we've biked in the rain. Seattle's hilly. It's not necessarily the easiest place to bike, but it's created this connection to the elements and the environment that has actually given me so much energy. It's made me feel alive. It's made me feel like more gratitude for even the weather when it's not that great. And it's been fun. It feels like an adventure traveling from A to B.
You're bringing a little bit of Europe to Seattle.
Yeah, classing it up.
Feel maybe people will follow your lead. That'd be fun. Do you have public transport?
Yeah, Seattle. I mean, Seattle. There's a lot of bikers. This is a big city that is pretty environmentally conscious. A lot of people even have like electric bikes. Um, Seattle does have transportation. As a New Yorker, I can be a little critical of their transportation just because New York City's transportation is amazing. You can get anywhere in 15, 20 minutes. Seattle, it's slow to get there, but it does have a light rail, it does have a bus system. It's not the most safe. Like, there are a lot of mentally ill and stable people who ride the buses and trains and who aren't paying for it, and sometimes are doing drugs on them. And, it just doesn't necessarily make people feel comfortable or safe, myself included in that. And to be honest, that's why I enjoy walking more places, because it takes about 15 minutes longer for me to walk someplace and getting my steps in, and I'm not necessarily having to deal with that.
Heard. Okay. Cool. I wish that my area was a little bit better that way. We have a bus that doesn't run a lot. Um,
Yeah, it takes like a lot of organization to time public transportation if it's not in a bigger metropolitan city.
yeah. And like where I am, it's not really a safe ride bike wise to get there. I mean, it's a 6 minute drive. Probably be close to half hour, maybe bike ride. I don't know. I don't ride bikes, but just to get to the bus, to get to the bus. Mm. It would take a lot for me. But
Yeah, you're in a place in the world that's pretty remote. It's hard. It's even hard in like a city that does have
right.
access to these things, and it does take more planning.
Yeah. I just only drive twice. I only go out twice. That's my justification. But I love that. I mean, I think that would be cool to see, to like be a fly on the wall, sort of, like, so to speak, to see if people are like, oh, that looks kind of like they're enjoying that. I wonder if I might enjoy that. Maybe I should bike.
The energy you bring into it's contagious. I've even started to, if we're biking to dinner to meet friends or something, I put on lipstick, and I'm like, I'm gonna be a cute biker. I'm not just gonna feel schlumpy biking, even though I'm gonna get sweaty because of these hills. I am gonna look cute, or have a change of outfit when I arrive, or do something that makes it actually fit into my lifestyle.
Awesome. Good for you. Do you have a big granny seat on your bike or no? No?
No, what's a granny seat?
Big fat bike seat for your butt.
No, I have I don't know, pretty standard one. When I haven't biked in a while and then I bike, I'm always like, oh yeah, that's what the biking soreness feels like.
uh but yeah, that's why I don't ride a bike. It hurts too much. Anyway.
I will say in Amsterdam, they have a lot of bike stores, and we walked into one that showed us there's this like bike that's just a bike seat that's just circular for women so that they can wear skirts while they bike.
Hmm.
and that the skirt, you know, isn't getting like
Okay.
spread
Well,
open wide. Yeah. And I was like, interesting. And supposedly it's like a French design. So there's a whole world of biking apparatus that is out there that I don't even know, you know, that we don't even know as I think Americans.
I would not even dream of wearing a skirt to bike, but
I mean, people in Amsterdam, I was shocked. People were wearing heels while biking. Like they, you know, are wearing suits. Like it is just a, and again, very different system
and they do it all
where
the
it's
time.
flat.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they do it all the time. So they have to wear what they're wearing.
But it proves, you know, it's like when you grow up doing something or you're accustomed to it and it's around you, it becomes the thing. Like it's not this outlandish act.
Just, it's just what we do. That's awesome. I love it. I mean, we biked in Charleston. We rode those what do they call it? The beach cruisers. That was not awful. I didn't hate that. I think it's like the mountain bikes with the all the gears and stuff that I don't like. It's also the like click 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 that's like miserable. But
Mm.
and maybe handbrakes.
Hmm.
Maybe it's me being uncoordinated.
I like the handbrakes. I don't like the back pedal brake. That to me is a whole other thing. But you know, you do you. That's why they have different styles.
I just want to be where it's flat and I want a big fat seat so I don't hurt my bum. Yeah. But oh my gosh. And so let's see. So you told us about your winter practice, but what do you do? What kind of what kind of practices do you do in the spring or the summer? Like, is it very different? Or do you have like, is it mostly energy or is it what are you doing?
Yeah. Well, you know, energy is something that I just like to be conscious of from like what food am I feeding myself, knowing that if there's like a day that I'm going and eating thing like no vegetables, I will feel that. Like I will feel the impact of that on my mind and my body. And one of the reasons, you know, I love cooking with color is not only because it's really good for you and you're getting a whole bunch of nutrients with the diversity of color, but I feel like I can feel the energy of the different the chi of the different fruits and vegetables in my system. And so I pay attention to what do I feed myself. And let's be clear, like I still like my pastries, my croissants, my chocolate, like that all has energy in it too. And that's a balance, you know, of figuring and paying attention to when my body's wanting what. Um my other practices that are really helpful for me to just even notice and gain awareness of what's happening internally and externally is my meditation practice. And I've had a consistent meditation practice for a long time, since I was, um, I'd say about 21. And I have obviously had phases where I've dipped out of it, but having a morning meditation practice is like this thing that gets me grounded. It helps me feel connected to myself. It helps me build awareness of like what's happening in my mind and my body and my emotional body. And it helps me also get some space from some of the stories or the things that are feeling really congested or all encompassing. It helps me create a little bit of more space so I can understand, you know, what's mine and what's not mine. I'm somebody who's very sensitive to things and people and energy. And so just even being conscious of like, again, what's here for me to pay attention to, what's here for me to be mindful of. Um, And then I have other practices like journaling and Pilates and walks that I do no matter the season, and almost every day, if not every other day. And those are just really staples that help me connect to my body, help me connect to my inner strength, help me connect to my inner voice. Um, and yeah, those are some of my favorite practices as we're heading into spring, and I would say fall too. I love this, but I love walking, taking walks, these mindful walks, and paying attention to the leaves, the trees, the buds, and just finding that nature rhythm, like that natural rhythm that is around us. And that is life giving, especially even like the season as we're coming out of winter really slowly, like starting to see the greens of like the daffodils pop up, starting to see the rosebuds, starting to see like even our lilac tree is like starting to get really tiny green buds. And I'm like, oh my God, just so paying attention to that, or in the fall, slowing down and really looking at the leaves starting to change and the color of the sun being a little bit warmer as it gets lower. And just noticing all of those shifts are really powerful ways for me to become more present and connected to self and to the greater world around me.
Awesome. Very cool. And so, I mean, on that, to that point, I mean, when I'm that just kind of brings me to the message that you wanted to you wanted people to leave with, was you were saying to just like to slow down and pay attention to, you said paying attention is key to feeling centered in a loud world. And boy, is the world loud. I totally feel that. But so I mean your practices, it sounds like that's totally what you're doing. You're just like centering yourself, you're just slowing yourself down to be to just be more aware of your own voice and your own self and stop listening to everything outside.
Yeah, thank you for articulating in that way. It's helpful for me to even hear, yes, like our world is so loud, whether you live in a city, are on social media, your work environment, your friends, your family, neighbors, right? Like we just have so many voices that we're constantly hearing. And it can be really easy to let those voices kind of sweep us out of our own bodies, out of our own minds, disconnect us from our own needs. And these centering practices, the intention behind them is to, yeah, bring us to the present moment, to connect us inwards so we can live more intentionally outwards. Um, and I was sitting actually in my meditation practice the other day, and I was listening to myself, and I got this like whisper of like, slow down. And I was like, what? I feel like I'm going pretty slow. Like, what's, like, what are you talking about? And I was sat with this question and was trying to like understand it and and be curious with it. And I realized sometimes it's not just like, what am I doing and what am I scheduling in my life? Like, how busy am I making myself on the outside? But it was also like, what's the pace at which I'm talking to myself and putting pressure on myself and putting projects or things I needed to do, or should statements on myself, or scheduling like wheels turning of planning things, but not necessarily on the calendar. And so it's a reminder of to myself of like, oh yeah, I get to like internally slow down too, just as much as externally. And
Mm,
when I can slow down on that internal pace, I realize how much more my anxiety softens. I realize how I am able to operate on more of a, I'm able to flow a little bit more and like trust life versus be in this place of needing to constantly do or control or manipulate.
Mhm.
And that is like new for me. Trust has been something really I've been on a journey with of building and learning how to like again just pay attention to the operating system um, is really important. Like, where am I trying to take action from? Am I taking action from fear and anxiety and what I don't want, or am I taking action from what I do want and from a place of calm and connection and capacity? And so, paying attention to all of those things. And in order to pay attention, yeah, you got to slow down. You got to listen. You got to be present.
Wow. That's that's kind of intense. I mean, to think about slowing down the inside. Like, I get that the thoughts go really fast, but just like how you're that just sounds like a lot. But sounds I mean, so the way you were talking about the how controlling everything, it sounds like almost like you were like on the defense, like everything is coming at you and you have to like defend, but so you're just like letting it come, just like trusting. That sounds hard. That sounds hard. Like how do you
Yeah.
do that?
I have been trying to practice this for a really long time. And I think a lot of my default comes from, I actually was just writing about this this morning. So I feel like this is very present for me of I feel like a lot of my patterning growing up in the city and this like hyperactive, hyper achieving productivity, New York is like time is money, money is time, pace is just so built into my nervous system. And also, I've had some real life shit happen to me where I was diagnosed with cancer at the age of 21. And at the same time, I lost my mom to her own battle of cancer. And that point of life was really this rupture for me, as one can imagine, of how precious life is and our time and our energy and our attention and what we put in our body, right? Just this whole awakening of, wow, I have choice in my life and wanting to be intentional. And that, trauma in my life really went deep from a place of like, okay, only then the good things can come into my right. So it was kind of like I put that block out there of like very just like very discerning what's going to enter my space because only something that's good, this is sacred. And so it was such a practice to it's been a practice to learn how to receive and like trust that good things can come in without, as you said, being on the defense, without putting up that wall. um and yeah, it's been a process.
That's awesome. Good for you. That's
Thank you.
has to be that's a long time coming. I mean, that's not like overnight for sure.
No, I don't yet have a do these 10 steps and you'll trust. I'd say the biggest thing that if somebody is interested in exploring trust is just to even start to get clear on like what does trust feel like and how can you just even connect to more of that felt sensation from a somatic place more often. And so for me, trust felt like laying in a hammock. It was like this ability to like rest back, be held, feel this gentle breeze, feel kind of like cozy, be able to look at the beautiful sky. And that has been what I've been practicing within my body um, for the last many years.
Wow. That sounds pretty awesome. I mean, that's a good practice. I mean, just to keep that feeling close and keep
Yeah.
that. Wow. Wow. Very cool. Good for you. Okay.
Thanks.
I want that. I want that. But so I mean,
I want that for you too.
Wade, this has been amazing. Like I love getting to know you better and get to know your practices better. It's really cool. Um, but so what what does the word sustainability mean to you?
Mm.
Mm.
Sustainability means being conscious of how what I'm expending. And so maybe put in some other words, like it's being conscious of like when to speed up, when to slow down, when to, when to, how do I want to be like managing? Like how do I just want to be like conscious of the actions that are happening? So in terms of even like sustainability on this larger scale of environmental sustainability, it's just even thinking about how am I being conscious of, again, like what energy is being consumed from my vegetables being raised by farmers and the miles they've traveled to the hands like that are picking it um to recognizing again like what's being what's the word I'm looking for, discarded, and how is that being processed into the universe. So it's just this like kind of like, what's the word I'm also looking for, this what's that symbol that goes like this?
Infinity?
Infinity, thank you. Like that flow of like in and out, what's happening in and out is how I define sustainability.
That's really cool. That is that is different than I have heard before. But I love that because it's so true. I mean, it's going back into the earth and it's going to become something else and and everything works like that. But I had a thought about that, but it is gone now. But I do really like that. And I love that you're talking about energy with that as well because it is, that's your jam. But and so if somebody is interested in learning more about your practices or follow, what Centered in the City is up to and learn more about that, how can someone find you?
Yeah. So if somebody is looking to work with me one-on-one, I offer one-on-one coaching, and a lot of that is for driven, ambitious people who are wanting to build more sustainability in their life, more not just centering practices, but ways that they can go after what they want, but also staying connected to their authentic self and voice without losing their sense of self. And I also then have my Center of the City podcast, which would love for listeners to join in on. And with that, I have a centeredinthecity.com platform, which is a whole bunch, like over 200 different holistic mindfulness resources and practices that people can check out and play with, from mindful cooking and mindful eating recipes to meditations to Pilates flows to journaling prompts. Everything there is designed to help people come back to their center, to take that time to pause and think about how do they want to feel and be in this world.
Awesome. That sounds like everything that anyone needs. I mean,
I hope so.
what more do
During
you
it was birthed during the pandemic because I was like, I was hearing people like YouTube for this and go to Instagram for this and I just like, I just want people to have this centered space where they can just go in and like take a deep breath and come back to themselves.
Right.
So that's centerinthecity.com if you want to check it out, or join me on Instagram at One Wade.
Very cool. And I will have links in the show notes, folks. But Wade, thank you so much. I appreciate this journey. This is amazing. And I appreciate your time so much.
Thanks, Amy. Thanks for having me on. It's fun to be a guest.
Yay. Okay.